This is a small sampling of a set of pruners that is part of my growing collection of hand pruners or secateurs that I use for gardening. They come in different shapes and sizes and even types, different price ranges, and the market right now is really saturated with good producers of different types of secateurs or pruners that any gardener could use. Hi, this is Louie. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Acorn Hill. Today I'd like to show you how I take care of, clean, and sharpen the blades of my favorite secateurs. Among the three pairs of secateurs here on the table, the one on the right is the very first pair of pruners that I got for myself when I started gardening. I got this more than 20 years ago. I got it from a local Kmart and it still works like a dream. Lately, I have not been using it too often because there's a lot of screws, joinery, and a lot of small parts to it that also collects dirt and grime, and so that to me gets in the way of my momentum when I'm gardening. This pair, however, the one below the WD-40, is my favorite bypass pruner. It's made of forged steel with one fulcrum bolt in the middle and a spring that loads up the cutting mechanism for this blade. It has a very simple mechanism in a smooth bypass cutting virtue, making all my branch cuttings and stem cuttings easy and precise. And as I mentioned earlier, these are bypass pruners, meaning the blade bypasses a hook so that when it cuts, it leaves a clean cut to the stem and not a crushed type of cut, which allows for disease and microorganisms to enter the plant material. I have a simple liking and predilection for vintage looking tools and vintage looking materials, and so these two different types of pruners do fit the bill. They are lightweight, they are very affordable, they also do the job because they cut really well and precise. Alright, apart from these two pruners, I'd like to also show you another pruner or snip that I use. It's a pair of very lightweight, very inexpensive grocery style plant snips that I got. I like them because they're much more pointed. It's a pair of blades that are much more pointed and long compared to these two pruners that I've shown you earlier. This is the pruner that I use for my topiaries, for little cuts that I have to get finer access to in between branches of smaller plants, small house plants. They also are made of forged aluminum, lightweight, very sharp blades on them. They do get dull and get blunt through wear and tear, and so today I wanted to show you how I will sharpen the blades on these three very individual and unique pruners. And my favorite tool for the job is the 6-inch Diamond Coated Blade Sharpener. This tool, a 6-inch piece of metal, is almost similar to an emery board. Now don't be surprised and get confused when they say diamond coated. It doesn't have diamonds on it, but technically it doesn't, but it does have a very thin layer of diamond particles right on the rough edge of this nail file. I call it a nail file just because it looks like a nail file, but really this piece of metal with an orange handle is one of the best things to happen in my sharpening world for my garden tools and anything alike. Sharpening the blades on these tools is a three-step process for me. Number one is I get a Sharpie or a permanent marker. Permanent marker is what I will use to outline the edge of the blade. The mark that it will leave along the border of the blade will now be my guide as to where and how much sharpening I have to do with the Diamond Coated Blade Sharpener. Okay, now that I got the edge of the blade all marked down, I use the textured diamond side of the file and I make long straight strokes on the bevel edge of the blade, moving from the pivot toward the tip. I work down the edge of the blade using this technique 3 or 5 times per stroke. The diamond coated surface restores sharpness with just a few passes and is ideal for removing nicks and burrs. And it couldn't be any more straightforward or easy. All we have to do is just pass a few strokes, and by the time you know it, that diamond coated surface really sharpens the edge of the blade. It's fairly easy to handle between supporting the blade and supporting the pruner and allowing the nail file or the sharpener to really go past the blade up and down. For almost $6 for this nail file or the sharpener file, it is the easiest, most convenient way for me to sharpen all my tools. I have tried stone before, ceramic stone, but that tends to be bulky and dusty, but this really does the trick. Sometimes I also use oil, either mineral oil or WD-40, right along the edge of the blade just to make sure that we're sharpening it pretty well. As you can see in this clip, I have really made several strokes, more than 5 strokes in fact on certain sections of the blade, just because this has been one of my always used heavy duty, often used blade and secateurs, that it's kind of left some nicks and burrs right on the blade that I had to really provide it with several strokes. Sharpening this one blade did not even take more than 5 minutes as I was doing this. As you can see, the shiny edge of the blade is now very evident, providing us with a sharper beveled side to this blade. Now the opposite side, the flat side of the blade, is where you will see more of the burrs and scratches and nicks that needs to be smoothed out. And just in this shot alone, you can definitely see the newly and freshly sharpened edge of this blade. Once this side of the blade is nice and sharp, it is now time to devote a couple of seconds over onto the opposite side of the blade. This is where you will see the flat edge. This is the side of the blade where all the irregularities, the burrs, and excess nicks are also pushed over as we were flattening and sharpening the curved beveled side of the blade. So by flipping this over, now we can really see some of those irregularities. Not a whole lot on this blade because we did a good job on the opposite beveled sharp edge. But now all I have to do is place the diamond side the diamond coated side of the sharpener and slowly just smoothen it out. And this would not take more than a minute. All we have to do is just find some of those nicks and glide the sharpener right over them. That way we can remove some of those metal nicks, and 1, 2, 3, and it's done. This is a job that does not really take more than 10 minutes to do from start to finish, from preparation of all the equipments that you need. After I do this, I wipe the blade side with WD-40 or mineral oil just to make sure we recondition the new sharpened edge of the blade. That also will prevent it from rusting out. Nice and sharp. Now I'll show you the difference between this newly sharpened blade compared to the newer pair of pruners that I have. I also failed to mention earlier that not only for its simplicity, this new pruner that I got from my local Walmart really has a hefty weight to it, so that when I start pruning and cutting branches, it really gives it a nice sharp cut. This will do the same, and 20 years of owning this pair hopefully be good for another 20 years. Another thing that I try to clean are the hooks. The hook part is what stabilizes the branch as the blade passes by or bypasses the branch for the cut, and that usually gets all the grime and all the rust, and using the diamond cut side of the sharpener does that thing for me. Now in the past I've also done scouring pads just to remove some of this gunk that's already stuck on and caked on the hook. Also works well for the blade, but you get a good idea now of how I do my sharpening and how I keep them nice and tidy for the next job in the garden. Well, that's all the time that I have for you guys right now. Thanks again for joining me on the channel. It's a short video, but I always appreciate your time, your being on the channel and viewing some of our videos and materials. Thanks again to our new subscribers. And for now, this is Louie, hoping you're enjoying the transition between summer into fall. And we'll see you back soon here on Acorn Hill. Bye-bye for now.